The morning she left still plays in my head, like a movie I never agreed to watch. The sky was pale, colorless, as if even the sun didn't want to show up for what was happening. Sophie stood by the doorway with her suitcase. Sleek, silver, expensive. It looked out of place against the cracked tiles of the small apartment we'd built our life in. "You'll be okay," she said, not looking at me. "You always are." I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe that I'd be okay without her, that love could just be folded, zipped, and wheeled away like luggage. But I wasn't okay. Not even close. For years, we built dreams together. Quiet ones. A small cafe near the river. A dog. Maybe kids one day when things got stable. But stability was a cruel word in our world. I worked long shifts as a construction foreman. Sophie dreamed of something more. Something I couldn't give her. She started going out with her new friend from work. Corporate people, the kind who talk about investments and networking over brunch. I didn't fit there, and she stopped asking me to come. Then one night, she didn't come home at all. 2 weeks later, she told me she'd fallen in love with someone else. A man who promised her the world, the kind that came with designer handbags and rooftop views. When she packed, she didn't cry. When the taxi came, she didn't look back. And when the door closed, silence filled the apartment like smoke, slow, choking, suffocating. The first few months were unbearable. I kept her coffee mug on the counter, half hoping she'd walk in again and scold me for leaving it there. Every creak in the hallway made me turn, expecting her. But she was gone. I tried to drown the ache with work, overtime shifts, weekend projects, anything to keep from going home to the echo of her laughter that still clung to the walls. Nights were the hardest. The bed felt like a grave of everything we used to be. Then one evening, I saw her on social media. She was glowing. Trips to Italy, fancy dinners, a ring on her hand that made headlines among her circle of friends. Her better life. I remember sitting on my couch, holding my phone, realizing I had officially become the sad cliché, the ex-husband scrolling through photos of the woman who replaced him. But that was also the night something inside me shifted. If she could start over, maybe so could I. I stopped drinking. I hit the gym again. I saved every penny and finally opened that cafe we'd always talk about. The Riverside Brew. It was small, nothing glamorous. But it was mine. Every brick, every screw, every cup of coffee had my fingerprint on it. Within a year, it became popular. Not because of fancy marketing, but because it felt real. People came not just for coffee, but for conversation, for something warm in a world that had grown cold. And me, I found peace. Not joy, not yet, but peace, the quiet kind that comes from finally forgiving yourself for being left behind. Then, one rainy night, it happened. I was closing up when I heard the knock. It was slow, hesitant. When I opened the door, my breath caught. Sophie stood there, soaked, trembling, mascara running down her face. For a second, I thought it was a dream. "Ethan," she whispered, "can I come in?" Her voice broke something inside me, something I thought I'd buried for good. She looked nothing like the woman in those glossy photos. Her hair was a mess, her clothes too thin for the cold, her eyes lost. "What happened to you?" I asked quietly. She hesitated, then stepped into the cafe, dripping rain onto the floor. The smell of wet asphalt filled the air. I poured her a cup of coffee, the way she liked it, though I wished I didn't still remember. "He left me," she said finally, her voice barely audible. "Took everything. The house, the money. I have nowhere to go." The words hung between us like ghosts. For a long moment, I just stared at her. This was a woman who'd told me I wasn't enough. The one who traded loyalty for luxury, promises for comfort. And now she was standing in front of me, asking for warmth in the same place she once called too small, too simple. "I'm sorry," she said, tears cutting through the rain on her cheeks. "I made a mistake. I thought I was chasing happiness, but I lost myself instead." I looked at her, the way one looks at a painting they used to love, recognizing the beauty but no longer feeling the same. "Life's funny," I murmured, setting my cup down. "You left for a better life, and I found mine when you did." Her lips trembled. "Ethan, please. I just need a place to stay for a few nights. Just until I get back on my feet." I should have said no. Every logical part of me screamed it. But as I looked at her shivering, rain-soaked and broken, I saw not the woman who left, but the woman I once promised to protect. So I nodded slowly. "You can stay in the spare room, just for a few nights." She smiled weakly, relief washing over her face. As she followed me upstairs, I caught a reflection in the cafe's glass door, fragile, faded, and small. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't the same man she left. I had moved on, but she was still lost. And neither of us knew then that letting her in again, just for a few nights, would reopen every wound I thought had healed. The next few days felt like walking through old memories that refused to stay buried. Sophie moved quietly through the house, careful, almost apologetic. She stayed in the guest room, the one that used to be our office. I could hear her sometimes at night, crying softly when she thought I was asleep. In the mornings, she helped around the cafe, wiping tables, taking orders, smiling at customers. People didn't recognize her as the ex-wife who left. To them, she was just another face trying to start over. But to me, she was every what if I'd ever tried to forget. She was different now, humble, softer somehow. The arrogance that once wrapped her words like perfume was gone. In its place was something raw, almost human. Still, I kept my distance. One evening, as the cafe quieted and the rain began to fall again, Sophie approached me behind the counter. "Ethan," she said, her voice small, "can we talk?" I nodded, wiping down a mug that didn't need cleaning. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said. "I wouldn't if I were you. But I need you to know that I didn't leave because of you. I left because I couldn't live with myself anymore." I frowned. "What does that even mean?" She took a shaky breath. "I spent so long chasing what I thought happiness looked like: money, attention, comfort. And when I got it, it felt empty. The man I left you for, he didn't love me. He owned me. I was part of his collection." Her hands trembled. I thought I could replace love with luxury. But I was wrong. Her confession landed between us like shattered glass. Sharp, honest, painful. "I'm not proud of who I became," she continued, voice breaking. "I hurt the only person who ever saw me for who I really was. And now I just want to start over, even if it's at the bottom." I said nothing. There were no words strong enough to fill the silence between us. After a while, I looked at her and said quietly, "You can't start over from the same place you destroyed." Her eyes welled up. "Then where do I start?" I sighed, setting the mug down. "Somewhere new. Somewhere that doesn't involve me." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of her breathing from the next room. Memories came rushing back. The nights we'd stayed up laughing over burnt pasta, the way she'd dance in the kitchen when she thought no one was watching, the way she used to love me before she stopped. It hurt, realizing I still cared. But it hurt more to know that caring didn't mean I wanted her back. The next morning, I found her sitting outside on the cafe's back steps, wrapped in one of my old sweaters, staring at the river. The dawn light painted her face gold, but her eyes were distant. "I got a call," she said softly. "There's a job offer in another city. Not glamorous, just a small firm looking for admin help. I think I should take it." I nodded. That sounds like a good start. She looked at me, tears glistening. "You're not angry?" I admitted. For a long time, I hated you for walking away. But holding on to that anger, it was like letting you leave twice. She smiled faintly, eyes glistening. "You always were better than me." "No," I said, just slower to give up. We sat in silence, watching the river flow, carrying leaves downstream like old memories finally letting go. That afternoon, she packed her bag again. Same suitcase, different story. Before she left, she turned to me at the door, the same door she'd once slammed behind her years ago. "Ethan," she whispered, "if I ever find happiness again, it'll be because you showed me what it really meant." I swallowed hard. "Then don't waste a lesson." She smiled through her tears, then stepped into the rain. No taxi this time. No fancy car waiting. Just her and the road ahead. I watched until she disappeared down the street, her figure shrinking into the gray. For the first time, the door didn't feel like an ending. It felt like closure. Weeks passed. The cafe grew busier. A journalist wrote a piece about the man who turned heartbreak into business success. People called me lucky, resilient, but I didn't feel either. Just grounded. Every now and then, I'd catch myself looking at the spare room door. It was empty again, but this time the silence felt peaceful, not lonely. Then, one morning, I found a letter slipped under the cafe door. The handwriting was unmistakable. Ethan, thank you for letting me in when you didn't have to. You gave me warmth when I had none, dignity when I'd lost it, and forgiveness I didn't deserve. I'm rebuilding myself piece by piece, and I carry your kindness with me everywhere. You were right. I couldn't start over where I destroyed everything. But I can start new, knowing I once had something real. If life is ever kind enough, maybe one day we'll meet again, not as what we were, but as who we become. Sophie. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in the drawer beneath the register. Then I opened the cafe for another day. As the morning light spilled across the tables, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace that didn't come from holding on, but from finally letting go. That evening, a young couple came in, arguing softly about money, dreams, and how love wasn't enough. The woman looked frustrated, the man tired. They reminded me of us, long ago, before everything fell apart. As I handed them their coffee, I smiled and said, "Don't give up on each other too fast. Sometimes what looks broken just needs patience." They thanked me and sat down. And as I watched them laugh again minutes later, I realized something profound. Sophie leaving wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to me. It was the beginning of who I became. And maybe, just maybe, the door she once closed had opened a better life. For both of us,